The alien queen smiled softly and said, "Yes, I accept." After he spoke without thinking, the words left Danny Carter's mouth before his brain could stop them. He stood in the grand chamber of the Valorian flagship, surrounded by beings that could vaporize Earth with a thought, and he had just proposed marriage to their queen. Queen Alzira of Veloria turned her luminescent violet eyes toward him. The entire council chamber fell silent. 300 alien dignitaries from across the galaxy stopped mid-conversation. Danny felt sweat bead on his forehead. He was supposed to be negotiating a simple trade agreement for mineral rights. Instead, his exhausted, sleep-deprived mind had mixed up his prepared speech with the romance novel his sister had been reading aloud on the shuttle ride here. The queen stood from her crystalline throne. She was nearly 8 feet tall, her skin shimmering like starlight, 4 arms folded elegantly across her chest. Her advisors leaned forward, their expressions unreadable. Danny's translator earpiece crackled with what he assumed were angry whispers. Captain Lisa Monroe, his commanding officer, grabbed his shoulder from behind and hissed into his ear. "What have you done?" Danny wanted to explain. He wanted to apologize. He wanted to sink through the floor and never exist again. But before he could speak, Queen Alzira descended the steps of her throne platform. Each footstep echoed through the vast chamber like a countdown to his execution. Ambassador Chen, the head of Earth's diplomatic corps, had warned him about Valorian customs during the briefing. He had been so tired he barely remembered any of it. Something about honor. Something about challenges. Something about proposals being sacred and binding. The queen stopped 3 feet in front of him. Up close, Danny could see the complex patterns that swirled beneath her translucent skin, like galaxies in motion. Her face was angular and beautiful in a way that defied human standards. She studied him with an intensity that made him feel like a microbe under a microscope. "Human delegate Daniel Carter," she said, her voice resonating with harmonics that his ears shouldn't have been able to process. "You stand before the Valorian throne and make a proposal of unity between our peoples through sacred bonding." Danny opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His mind raced through possible explanations, none of them good. Behind the queen, her chief advisor, a massive warrior with scales like polished obsidian, rested one hand on what was definitely a weapon. The queen's expression was impossible to read. Valorians had conquered 40 star systems. They had never lost a war. They viewed humans as interesting primitives who had barely mastered faster-than-light travel. And now Danny had accidentally asked their absolute monarch to marry him in front of the entire Galactic Council. Queen Alzira smiled softly. The expression transformed her face, making her seem almost approachable. She extended one of her 4 hands toward him. "Yes," she said clearly, "I accept." The chamber erupted into chaos. The Valorian Council chamber descended into madness. Delegates from 100 worlds began shouting in languages Danny's translator couldn't keep up with. Captain Monroe yanked him backward as energy shields flared to life around various sections of the room. Ambassador Chen looked like he might have a heart attack. But Queen Alzira raised 2 of her hands, and silence returned as quickly as it had shattered. She hadn't taken her eyes off Danny. "The human has made a formal proposal," she announced, her voice carrying effortlessly across the vast space. "According to the ancient laws of Valoria, I have accepted. The bond ceremony will commence within 3 cycles. Danny finally found his voice. "Your Majesty, I think there's been a terrible mistake." "I didn't mean to. Are you rescinding your proposal?" The queen's tone remained pleasant, but every alien in the room tensed. Her chief advisor's hand tightened on his weapon. "The human insults the queen," someone shouted from the crowd. More voices joined in agreement. Ambassador Chen stepped forward quickly, his face pale but determined. "Your Majesty, Delegate Carter is young and unfamiliar with Valorian customs. Perhaps we could discuss this matter privately and reach an understanding that honors both our peoples." Queen Alzira tilted her head, studying Chen with an expression that might have been amusement. "You suggest I've misunderstood my own language?" The human spoke clearly in Galactic Standard. "He asked for a unity bond before the assembled council. I have accepted. There is nothing to discuss." Danny felt the weight of thousands of eyes upon him. His mind raced. If he backed out now, it would be an insult that could destroy Earth's standing with the Valorian Empire. But if he went through with this, he would be married to an alien queen from a species that viewed humans as barely advanced primates. "I don't understand," Danny said carefully. "Why would you accept?" The question seemed to surprise her. The queen's smile widened slightly. "That is a conversation for later. For now you will be given quarters appropriate to your new station. Your delegation will remain as honored guests for the ceremony preparations. She turned to her council. The human has done what none of you dared. He looked upon Valoria's throne and saw not something to fear, but something to embrace. Whether by courage or foolishness, he has offered unity between our species. I choose to see wisdom in accepting. The chief advisor stepped forward. His voice was deep and resonant. My queen, the law is clear, but this human knows nothing of our ways. The bonding trials will destroy him. Perhaps mercy would be more appropriate than honor. The trials? Danny repeated weakly. Captain Monroe grabbed his arm again. Queen Alzira nodded. Of course. A unity bond with Valoria's crown requires proof of worth. You will undergo 3 trials before the ceremony. Success means the bond proceeds. Failure means death. The word hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Danny's legs felt weak. He had gone from trade negotiator to engaged to possibly dead in less than 10 minutes. This is unacceptable, Ambassador Chen protested. Delegate Carter made an honest mistake. Earth cannot allow one of its citizens to be executed over a misunderstanding. Then the human should not have made the proposal, the chief advisor growled. Our laws are sacred. They have governed Valoria for 10,000 years. Queen Alzira raised a hand again. Enough. The human will have 3 cycles to prepare. My attendants will instruct him in what he needs to know. If he survives the trials, the bond will unite our peoples in ways that will reshape the galaxy. If he fails, Earth will still have our respect for sending someone brave enough to try. She looked directly at Danny again. You have surprised me, Daniel Carter. I look forward to learning whether that surprise was warranted. With that, she swept from the chamber, her advisors and guards following. The massive door sealed behind her with a boom that Danny felt in his chest. Captain Monroe spun him around. What were you thinking? I wasn't, Danny admitted. I was so tired from the trip, and my sister was reading that romance book about the space princess, and the words just came out wrong. Romance book, Chen repeated flatly. You proposed to an alien queen because of a romance novel. I didn't propose, Danny protested weakly. I got confused. It doesn't matter now, Monroe said. What matters is keeping you alive. We have 3 days to figure out these trials and find a way through this mess. 4 Valorian guards appeared at the chamber entrance. They were each 7 feet tall, armored in what looked like living metal. The lead guard spoke in heavily accented English. Daniel Carter, come, we take you to royal quarters. Danny looked at his fellow humans. Chen's expression was grim. Monroe looked like she was calculating combat odds and not liking the numbers. Behind them, the remaining alien delegates watched with expressions ranging from shock to amusement to what might have been respect. Go, Chen said quietly. We'll try to establish communication channels with Earth Command. Maybe there's a diplomatic solution we're missing. Danny doubted it. He had seen the Queen's face. She hadn't been joking or testing him. She had accepted his accidental proposal, and now he was committed to trials that would apparently kill him if he failed. As the guards escorted him from the chamber, Danny couldn't shake one thought. The Queen had smiled when she accepted. Not the cold smile of a monarch playing political games, but something genuine. Something that suggested she knew exactly how absurd this situation was and had decided to see where it led. He had 3 days to prepare for trials designed to kill him. 3 days to learn about a culture he barely understood. 3 days before he either became the first human to bond with Valorian royalty or died trying. It was going to be a very long 3 days. The royal quarters were larger than Danny's entire apartment back on Earth. Crystal walls displayed slowly shifting views of nebulae and distant stars. Furniture that seemed grown rather than built adjusted to his presence. The guards deposited him inside and took positions at the door. Danny had exactly 5 minutes alone before a Valorian woman entered. She was smaller than the Queen, perhaps 6.5 feet tall, with skin that shimmered in shades of blue rather than violet. She carried a data tablet that floated beside her. I am Kalara, first attendant to Queen Alzira, she said in perfect English. I will prepare you for the trials. Can we talk about not doing the trials? Danny tried. Kalara's expression suggested he had just asked if water was wet. The Queen has accepted your proposal. The trials are mandatory. To refuse would mean death for you and dishonor for your entire species. The galaxy would see Earth as cowards who make promises they cannot keep. Danny sat down heavily on what he hoped was a chair. What are the trials? The first trial is combat, Kalara explained. You will face a champion from the Queen's Guard in armed battle. Victory requires you to either defeat your opponent or survive for 10 minutes. 10 minutes of combat with an alien super soldier, Danny said. Great. What's the second trial? The second trial is wisdom. You will be presented with a crisis affecting the Valorian people. Your solution must demonstrate understanding and leadership worthy of standing beside the Queen. And the third? Kalara hesitated. The third trial is truth. You will be connected to a neural interface that reads your deepest thoughts and intentions. The court will see everything you are. If they judge you unworthy, if they find deception or malice in your heart, you die. Danny's blood ran cold. They're going to read my mind? Every thought, every memory, every secret. Kalara watched him carefully. This is why the third trial kills most candidates, ere having their soul laid bare before the Valorian court. He thought about the things in his head, embarrassing memories. Stupid thoughts. The time he cheated on a test in high school, the lies he had told his parents, every petty, selfish, fearful moment of his 26 years. I'm going to die, he said quietly. Perhaps, Kalara agreed. Or perhaps you will surprise us. The Queen believes you might. She would not have accepted otherwise. Why did she accept? She's a queen. I'm nobody. This makes no sense. Kalara moved to the window, gazing out at the stars. Valoria has been at war for 3 centuries. We have conquered much, but we have also lost much. The Queen sees your species differently than her advisors do. Humans are reckless and short-lived, but you are also adaptable and creative in ways we have forgotten. That's why she wants to marry a human? For creativity? The Queen wants peace, Kalara said. A true unity bond between Valoria and Earth would make war between our peoples impossible. It would force both sides to work together. Your accidental proposal gave her an opportunity she had been seeking. Danny felt a surge of anger. So she's using me. This whole thing is just politics. Everything is politics when you rule an empire, Kalara replied calmly. But that does not mean her interest is only political. The Queen could have refused your proposal. She could have found a dozen ways to dismiss it without insult. Instead, she accepted immediately. That interests me. Before Danny could respond, the door opened again. Captain Monroe and Ambassador Chen entered, looking frustrated. We've been in contact with Earth Command, Chen said. They're sending their best diplomatic team, but they won't arrive for 2 days. By then, you'll already be in the trials. Monroe pulled up a holographic display. I've been researching Valorian combat techniques. It's not good. They're warriors trained from childhood. They're stronger, faster, and have 4 arms. Even with weapons, your chances are minimal. We need to focus on the second trial, Chen argued, the wisdom test. That's where a human might actually have an advantage. If he survives the first trial, Monroe countered. Kalara interrupted them. The human cannot prepare for all 3 trials equally. He must choose where to focus his limited time. Danny thought about it. The combat trial seemed impossible. The wisdom trial depended on a situation he couldn't predict, but the truth trial terrified him most. Having every thought exposed, every weakness revealed. Teach me about Valorian values, he said to Kalara. What they respect, what they despise. If my mind is going to be read, I need to understand how they'll judge what they see. Kalara looked surprised. Most candidates focus on combat or wisdom. The truth trial cannot be prepared for. Maybe not, Danny said, but I can understand the lens they'll view me through. I can't change who I am, but I can give context to it. Monroe frowned. You're gambling that honesty will be enough? I'm gambling that the Queen accepted my proposal because she saw something worth accepting, Danny replied. She didn't have to do this. Kalara said it herself. The Queen wants this bond for reasons beyond just politics. Maybe she sees something in humanity that her advisors don't. If that's true, then showing them who humans really are, flaws and all, might be the only way through. Chen looked skeptical. That's a dangerous bet. Everything about this is dangerous, Danny shot back. But think about it. If I try to beat them at combat, I'll fail. If I try to outsmart them at wisdom, I'll probably fail. But if I can make them understand humans, really understand us, then maybe the third trial becomes an advantage instead of a death sentence. Kalara studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. There may be wisdom in that approach after all. Very well. We will spend the next 3 cycles teaching you about Valoria, about our history, our culture, our values. But you must also train for combat. Even 10 minutes requires preparation. What about the wisdom trial? Monroe asked. For that, Kalara said, he will need luck in the thing humans call improvisation. No amount of preparation will help if the crisis chosen does not play to his strengths. Danny stood up. His legs felt steadier now. He had a plan. It might be a terrible plan, but it was something. Then let's get started. We're burning time. Kalera's expression might have been respect. The Queen chose well. You do not waste energy on fear or denial. You adapt and move forward. That is very human of you. Is that a compliment? Danny asked. From a Valorian? Kalera smiled slightly. Yes, it is. The 3 cycles passed faster than Danny thought possible. Kalera proved to be a relentless teacher. She drilled him on Valorian history, showing him the wars they had won, the species they had absorbed, the philosophy that drove their empire. Honor above all. Strength tempered by wisdom. The belief that leadership required sacrifice. Captain Monroe worked with him on combat basics. How to move efficiently. How to conserve energy. How to fall without breaking bones. She was honest about his chances. You're not going to win, she said on the second day, watching him stumble through a drill with a practice weapon. So don't try. Focus on defense. Stay mobile. Make them work for it. 10 minutes is a long time in combat. Ambassador Chen provided context about Earth's position in the galactic community. Humanity was new to the larger galaxy, barely a century into space exploration. Most species viewed them as aggressive and unpredictable. This trial would be watched across 1,000 worlds. If you succeed, Chen said, Earth's reputation changes overnight. If you fail, we become a cautionary tale. No pressure, Danny muttered. On the morning of the trials, Kalera brought him armor. It was lighter than he expected, made from some material that felt like silk but could supposedly stop plasma fire. The weapon was a staff that could extend into a blade or collapse into a fighting stick. She showed him the basic forms. The champion you face will be Vrath, she said. He is the best warrior in the Queen's Guard. This should comfort you. Danny stared at her. How is that comforting? Because Vrath is honorable. He will not toy with you. If you fall, it will be quick. She paused. He has never been defeated. Of course he hasn't, Danny said. The arena was massive. Thousands of aliens filled the viewing galleries. At the center of it all sat Queen Alzira on a raised throne, flanked by her advisors. She wore elaborate robes that seemed to shift color with her breathing. Her expression was unreadable. Vrath entered from the opposite side. He was enormous, nearly 9 feet tall, with skin like polished stone, and 4 arms that ended in hands the size of dinner plates. His weapon was a massive blade that crackled with energy. An announcer's voice boomed across the arena in multiple languages. The rules were simple. 10 minutes. Defeat or survival. No permanent harm intended, but accidents happened. The countdown began. Danny's heart hammered in his chest. He tried to remember everything Monroe had taught him. Movement, defense, survival. The buzzer sounded. Vrath moved with terrifying speed. Danny barely got his staff up in time to block the first strike. The impact sent shockwaves through his arms. He rolled sideways as the second strike cratered the ground where he had been standing. The crowd roared. Danny couldn't tell if they were cheering for him or for his imminent demise. He focused on breathing, on moving. Vrath was faster and stronger, but Danny was smaller. He could duck under strikes that would have taken his head off. He could slide through gaps that Vrath's massive frame couldn't follow. 4 minutes passed in a blur of near misses and desperate blocks. Danny's arms felt like lead. Sweat poured down his face. Vrath hadn't even broken a sweat. Then Danny made a mistake. He zigged when he should have zagged. Vrath's blade came down and caught his shoulder. The armor held, but the impact sent Danny sprawling. He tasted blood. The crowd noise changed. Some of them were chanting something in Valorian. Danny rolled to his feet, but his left arm wasn't responding correctly. The shoulder wasn't broken, but it was badly bruised. 6 minutes gone. 4 to go. Vrath paused. He could have pressed the attack, could have ended it. Instead, he stepped back and saluted with his blade. The gesture was clear. Respect for staying in the fight. Danny returned the salute with his good arm. Then Vrath came at him again. Danny switched tactics. He couldn't block anymore. Instead, he focused purely on evasion. He used the arena itself, circling pillars, staying just out of reach. Vrath adjusted, cutting off angles, herding him into corners. 8 minutes. 2 minutes left. Danny's vision was starting to blur. His lungs burned. His legs threatened to give out. Vrath drove him toward the arena wall. Danny saw the trap too late. He had nowhere to go. The massive warrior raised his blade for a finishing strike. Danny did the only thing he could think of. He threw his staff like a javelin at Vrath's center mass, then dove between the warrior's legs. The staff bounced harmlessly off Vrath's armor, but the surprise gave Danny a second to roll away. Vrath turned, his expression something that might have been amusement. He tossed his own blade aside and came at Danny with just his 4 fists. The last 90 seconds were the longest of Danny's life. He couldn't block fists with 4 different angles. He took hits to the ribs, the legs, the face, but he stayed on his feet. He kept moving. He refused to fall. The final buzzer sounded. Danny collapsed to his knees, gasping. Blood dripped from his nose. His entire body felt like one giant bruise, but he had survived. The crowd erupted in noise. Some were cheering. Some were booing. Danny couldn't tell which was louder. Vrath walked over and extended one of his massive hands. Danny took it and let himself be pulled to his feet. The warrior looked down at him and spoke in halting English. "You fight like human," he said. "Refuse to die. Good." Then Vrath saluted him again, this time with all 4 arms. The gesture silenced the crowd. In Valorian culture, Danny learned later, it was the highest sign of respect one warrior could give another. Queen Elzira stood from her throne. Her voice carried across the arena. "The first trial is complete. Daniel Carter has proven himself worthy of continuing. The second trial will commence after a rest period." Danny wanted to argue that he needed more than a rest period. He needed a hospital. But medics were already rushing onto the arena floor with equipment that glowed with unfamiliar technology. As they worked on him, Danny caught the Queen's eye across the arena. She was smiling again. That same soft smile from the council chamber. A smile that said she had expected this outcome all along. He had survived the first trial. 2 more to go. And somehow, impossibly, he was starting to believe he might actually make it through. The Valorian medical technology worked impossibly fast. Within an hour, Danny's bruises had faded and his shoulder moved normally again. The medic said something about cellular regeneration that he didn't understand. He was just grateful he could stand without wanting to scream. Calera escorted him to a preparation chamber for the second trial. "You impressed many with your survival," she said. "Vrath has not shown that level of respect to a challenger in decades." "Does that help me with the wisdom trial?" Danny asked. "No. That trial cares nothing for physical courage." She handed him another data tablet. "You will be presented with a scenario. You will have 30 minutes to devise a solution. The council will judge whether your answer demonstrates the wisdom required to stand beside the Queen." They brought him into a smaller arena. The council sat in a semicircle. Queen Elzira was among them, but she didn't meet his eyes. This time she was a judge, not a spectator. A holographic display materialized in the center of the room. It showed a solar system Danny didn't recognize. A voice explained the scenario in cold, precise terms. The Korvath system is home to 2 billion Valorian citizens. A rogue asteroid, diverted by gravitational anomalies, will impact the primary colony world in 6 standard days. The asteroid is too large to destroy completely. Any attempt will simply break it into thousands of deadly fragments. Evacuation is impossible. The fleet cannot arrive in time with enough ships. You are the regional commander. How do you save the Korvath system? Danny's mind raced. This was a no-win scenario. Classic command test. They wanted to see how he thought under impossible pressure. Except humans had faced impossible scenarios before. "Show me the asteroid's composition," Danny said. The display zoomed in, revealing detailed scans, mostly iron and nickel with pockets of volatile compounds. "Show me the available resources in the system." The display shifted, showing mining facilities, cargo ships, and industrial stations. An idea started forming. It was crazy. It would never work on Earth because they didn't have the technology. But Valorians did. "I wouldn't try to destroy the asteroid or evacuate the population," Danny said. "I would move the planet." Silence filled the chamber. Several council members made sounds of disbelief. "That is impossible," one of them stated flatly. "No, it's just very difficult," Danny countered. "Valorians have gravity manipulation technology. You use it for faster-than-light travel. The mining facilities in the Korvath system have industrial-grade gravitational equipment for asteroid processing. If you coordinated every gravity generator in the system and focused them on the planet itself, you could create a controlled gravitational gradient." He manipulated the holographic display, sketching out the concept. "You wouldn't move the planet far. Just enough to shift its orbit by a few thousand kilometers. Enough that the asteroid misses. It would take precise timing and every bit of power the system could generate, but the math works." "The population would experience gravitational stress," another council member said. "There would be casualties from the orbital shift." "Fewer than 2 billion, Danny replied. You asked me how to save the Korvath system. I can't save everyone, but I can save most of them. Sometimes wisdom isn't about finding the perfect solution. It's about choosing the option where the most people live. Queen Alzira leaned forward. This solution requires exceptional coordination. If the gravitational fields are misaligned by even a small margin, the planet could tear itself apart. Yes, Danny agreed, which is why the regional commander would need to trust their people completely. Valorians are the best engineers in the galaxy. If anyone can pull this off, they can. Wisdom isn't just about having the answer. It's about trusting others to execute it. The council members conferred in low voices. Danny couldn't read their expressions. He had given them his best answer, pulled from humanity's history of last-minute saves and desperate improvisation. He hoped it was enough. Finally, the head council member spoke. Your solution is unorthodox, costly, dangerous, but it demonstrates creative thinking and an understanding of measured sacrifice. The second trial is complete. You have passed. Danny let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. 2 down. 1 to go. The third trial began immediately. They led Danny to a circular chamber with a single chair at its center. Above the chair hung a device that looked like a crown made of lightning. The neural interface, Kalara whispered. Remember, they will see everything. Do not try to hide anything. That only makes it worse. Danny sat in the chair. The crown descended onto his head. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his mind exploded outward. Every memory, every thought, every emotion laid bare. He saw his childhood flash by, including the embarrassing moments he wished he could forget. His teenage years with all their angst and stupid decisions. His parents arguing, his sister's wedding. The day he joined Earth's diplomatic corps because he wanted to make a difference. But it wasn't just memories. The interface pulled out his fears, his doubts, his insecurities, his worry that he wasn't good enough, his fear of disappointing people, the crushing weight of responsibility he felt, knowing that his success or failure would affect billions. The council saw it all. They saw the moment in the council chamber when he made his accidental proposal. They saw his exhaustion, his confusion, his panic. They saw that it had been a genuine mistake. But they also saw what came after. They saw him choose to push forward instead of giving up. They saw him decide to face the trials rather than shame his species. They saw him lying awake at night, terrified but unwilling to run. And they saw something else. They saw the moment in the arena when Danny looked at Queen Alzira and realized something unexpected. He had started this journey by accident, but somewhere along the way he had begun to respect her, to admire her, to wonder what a partnership between their species could actually accomplish. The interface released him. Danny slumped in the chair, gasping. His mind felt raw and exposed. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then Queen Alzira stood. "We have seen your truth, Daniel Carter," she said. "We have seen your flaws and your strengths. We have seen your fear and your courage. We have seen that you are imperfect, as all beings are. But we have also seen that you are honest, that you act with good intent, that you face impossible odds and refuse to surrender." She descended from the council platform and approached him. "Most importantly, we have seen that your proposal, though accidental, has become genuine. You have come to respect Valoria and its people. You see possibility where others see difference." The Queen extended all 4 of her hands toward him. "The trials are complete. You have proven yourself worthy. If you still wish to proceed with the Unity Bond, I accept. Not for politics, not for advantage, but because I believe that humans and Valorians together could achieve what neither could alone." Danny stood on shaky legs. He looked at the alien queen before him, at the council watching expectantly, at the future hanging in the balance. He thought about his accidental proposal and the wild journey it had set in motion. Then he smiled and took her hands. "Yes," he said clearly. "I accept too." The chamber erupted in celebration, and somewhere in the back of his mind Danny thought about his sister's romance novel. She would never believe this actually happened. But as Queen Alzira smiled at him, soft and genuine, Danny realized that sometimes the best stories were the ones that started with a mistake and ended with something real.